What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. We're about a week into March, so I'm really late to this. But before we get any further into this month, let's stop and talk about my most anticipated movies of the month. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what movies in March you're most looking forward to seeing. As always, this is just a reminder that these will be in order of release date and not ranked by how much I'm anticipating each movie. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these videos, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content like reviews and rankings on a near daily basis. So as usual, we'll have 10 movies to discuss, and I know by the time this is out, a few of the films on this list will have already been out, but for what it's worth, I still haven't seen them as of this recording, and I didn't want to not do this video, so you're getting it anyway. Similar to why my February wrap-up was a bit late, I've just been busier than normal, but hopefully that won't be the case moving forward, but life gets in the way and all that, so better late than never though. So I'm just going to stop rambling, let's not waste any more time, and let's just jump into this. Kicking things off is After Yang, the first A24 film we'll be talking about today that sees a family, led by Colin Farrell, who is also in the next film on this list, having to reckon with what it means to be human when their AI helper breaks down. Now, this one's directed by Kogonado, whose previous film Columbus, which I haven't seen yet, is beloved in film circles. And while this is a sci-fi film, it's a much more grounded take on the genre, exploring themes that we've seen before regarding the nature of humanity. So it does so in what seems to be a heartfelt, emotional way, being first and foremost a character study. This one's received a lot of positive reviews. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it, and it's already out, having been released in theaters and on Showtime on the 4th. The Batman, which honestly needs no introduction as it's the movie that everyone's been talking about for the last few weeks. Now, while I did include this on my most anticipated movies of the year list, if I had to rank them, I'll admit, even with all the hype, I still wouldn't have been one of the people that had it in my top 5, but obviously I'm looking forward to seeing it, as I very much do enjoy Matt Reeves as a director. Since Cloverfield, he hasn't missed yet in my opinion. Plus, from what everyone's been saying, this is much more of a noir detective take on Batman, exploring Gotham much more in depth in a way that's reminiscent of Batman the Animated Series as well as the Arkham games. So if it truly is anything like one of those projects, consider me pretty excited. I haven't seen it yet, but this one's out as well, having hit theaters on the 4th. Fresh, which stars Daisy Edgar Jones, who enters a new relationship only to find out that her boyfriend, played by Sebastian Stan, has some unusual appetites. Directed by Mimi Cave and produced by Adam McKay, this one was talked about a lot not too long ago as it premiered at Sundance earlier this year, where it received a lot of positive buzz. The film looks to be a wild but fun mix of horror and comedy. While none of the official plot synopses flat out say what the appetite of Stan's character is, it's not hard to put two and two together. And given the energetic feel of the trailer, I'm excited to see how it all comes together, as I absolutely love a great off-kilter horror comedy. This is another one that's out now, but I still haven't seen it yet, having been released on Hulu on the 4th. The Adam Project, which sees Ryan Reynolds as a time-traveling pilot who teams up with his younger self and his late father to come to terms with his past while saving the future. Directed by Sean Levy, this was one that, when I first heard about it, I wasn't expecting much, but then I saw the trailer and I was surprised by how much fun it looked to be, and considering how enjoyable Reynolds and Levy's previous film, last year's Free Guy, was, all that together has me a lot more excited for this. It looks to be Ryan Reynolds doing his usual shtick, for better or worse, but the trailers indicate it's going to have a nice, crowd-pleasing feel to it, and the tone feels very reminiscent of Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg's 80s film. And while that's a style a lot of films and shows have been trying to emulate in the past few years, I can't help but find myself being a sucker for those sort of projects. So I'm looking forward to seeing Lightning Strike twice for Reynolds and Levy, and it hits Netflix on the 11th. Turning Red, the latest film from Pixar, which focuses on a 13-year-old girl who turns into a giant red panda whenever she gets too excited. And all I can say is, you can count me really excited for this, as whenever Pixar has something on the horizon, it usually goes towards the top of my most anticipated lists. Not saying that everything they churn out is a new bona fide classic, but they are one of the most refreshing creative voices in mainstream filmmaking these days, and whenever they have something original out, at the very least, it's intriguing for whatever themes they look to explore through some bizarre setups. In this case, this is using the panda as a metaphor for puberty and growing up. I've been hearing a lot of great things about it, and we'll see where it lands in Pixar's filmography when it hits Disney Plus on the 11th. Operation Fortune, Ruse du Jour, sees Jason Statham as super spy Orson Fortune and his team of operatives recruit Hollywood's biggest star, played by Josh Hartnett, to help them on an undercover mission. Guy Ritchie seems to be taking the Steven Soderbergh route these days, where every year since 2019, 2019, he's been cranking out at least one new film, with another project already lined up on top of this for next year. And while I've enjoyed a lot of his most recent work, I don't think I've seen anything that I felt quite matched his first two films, those being Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This, though, might be the one to change that, as this looks like an absolute blast. I hadn't seen the trailer until putting together the list for this, and I was initially sold. It looks to be action-packed and chock full of witty dialogue, as I'm sure there will be a lot of great banter among its talented cast that also includes Aubrey Plaza, Cary Elwes, and Hugh Grant. I have a feeling this will be high on my list for Guy Ritchie's best works, and it hits theaters on the 18th. X, the latest film from Ty West that focuses on an adult film crew that arrives in a secluded farmhouse in Texas only for things to get violent. This is the second A24 film that we're getting this month, and it sees them headed into slasher territory, with a cast that includes Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, Kid Cudi, and Brittany Snow. With the film's secluded Texas setting, its grainy throwback aesthetic, taking place in the 1970s, and with Ty West known for paying homage to classic horror films and eras, most notably in House of the Devil, I'm getting some vibes this will take on the overall feel of slasher films from the 70s. And I'm especially getting some Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes from this, though maybe that's just because I binged through all those films just recently. But either way, I think the film looks pretty terrifying, though I also know Ty West isn't exactly a mainstream filmmaker, and part of me wouldn't be surprised if he has a few tricks up his sleeve for this to head into some truly bizarre territory that it's not letting on about. But it looks very promising, and it hits theaters on the 18th. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the latest film from the Daniels, the creative duo behind the absolutely bonkers Swiss Army Man, which sees them take on the multiverse in a completely original movie. You got Marvel doing it, DC's about to do it, and now we're getting a third take on the concept where it's something not based on any pre-existing material. So that alone has me really excited, along with the fact that it also seems to be an absolutely off-the-wall action-packed experience that I'm sure will get a little trippy given the concept and who's involved. It's the third film this month distributed by A24, though with their films being known for not always being the most accessible to mainstream audiences, this is the first of their films in quite some time where I'm seeing nearly everyone, from art house fans to blockbuster fans, really expressing interest in it. So I think this has the potential to be the one A24 movie that will be the most beloved by everyone. I'm excited for it, and it hits theaters on the 25th. The Lost City, which stars Sandra Bullock as a romance adventure author who gets kidnapped by an eccentric billionaire, played by Daniel Radcliffe, who wants her to lead him to the Lost City as depicted in her latest novel, while the cover model, based on her hero, played by Channing Tatum, tries to rescue her. Directed by independent filmmakers Adam and Aaron Nee, this looks to be a fun adventure in the vein of films like Romancing the Stone, or even a little bit of Tropic Thunder thrown in there. Now, while I'm not exactly the biggest Sandra Bullock fan, she can be fun with the right script, and this does look like it'll be a good bit of mindless fun, from its action-packed setting, somewhat meta vibe, and charming star-studded cast. And honestly, considering we don't get too many big-budget, mainstream, broad-appealing comedies these days, hopefully it's done right here, and it'll wind up being a real treat. We shall see, though, when it hits theaters on the 25th. And finally, Nitram, which examines the events leading up to the 1996 Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania in an attempt to understand why and how the atrocity occurred. This actually premiered last year at Cannes and already had a release in Australia in September, but is finally getting an international release this year. It's directed by Justin Kurzel, who gave us one of my favorite adaptations of Macbeth with Michael Fassbender from a few years ago, and whose work has mostly been critically acclaimed. It's a slow-burning, psychological historical thriller that, while having received critical acclaim itself, I'm sure won't exactly be for everyone. The film actually received a lot of controversy in Tasmania itself, primarily due to Kurzel's choice to make the film about the events altogether, which I can understand, especially with the film supposedly taking place through the killer's perspective and attempting to get into his head. While those tend to be trickier subjects, and I truly don't know much about the actual tragedy, considering the film has otherwise received critical acclaim, there must be something hopefully meaningful to say. But we'll see, and when it hits theaters and VOD on the 30th. But that's all for this list, and in the meantime, let me know, what movies are you most looking forward to seeing in March? Was it anything I listed here? Was it something I left off? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.